Hey guys, Nick Gabriel. I'm here with Brian Rose, and we just had Christopher Dines in the studio.
Yeah, this guy's a life coach, a former DJ, and he's written 2 books.
Check it out.
Hello and welcome to London Real. My name is Brian Rose. With me is the extremely good-looking Mr. Nick Gabriel, and joining us in studio today is Christopher Divinity Dines. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, that's a cool name you have.
Thank you.
Where did you get the Divinity moniker?
An old friend of mine, Eddie Gordon, kind of gave me the name as an idea, and then everyone else started to call me that afterwards.
Wow.
It's very cool.
It's a very cool name. You know, we put something up on Facebook about you, and I described you as a life coach, a former DJ, and the author of 2 books. One of them we have copies in our hand, which is called The Mystery of Belief. I'm just going to flash that up there so people can see it. You know, we have had a few authors in here, but it's just kind of cool to sit down with one. Can you talk to us about your journey through those things?
In respects to writing and things like that.
Well,
Yeah.
when did you realize that you wanted to write a book? Was it something that was always inside you, or?
No, it's I when I was a kid, I always wanted to play music. I was a professional DJ until 2006, so the idea of writing books or, you know, giving motivational talks and things like that was I couldn't comprehend that. I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I still haven't got any certificates to my name, and when I was at school, I was either smoking dope or, you know, drinking, so I'm not an academic. Mm-hmm. But I think as a result of, you know, cleaning up my act when I was 21, I stopped the drugging and partying and things like that.
Was there a specific point or occurrence in your life that said, or that made you say to yourself, it's time to change my course in life?
Yeah, there was. Like I said, when I was 21, I stopped taking, you know, drugs and alcohol. There's nothing wrong with people taking drugs and alcohol. It's just with me, it's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Do you go too far?
Yeah, I go too far, and there's just always just chaos.
Okay, can you expand on that?
Well, it's I think if I look back in my experiences, I don't know where there's a limit, and I think when one is dealing with mind or mood altering substances to deliberately change the way how one feels, there's got to be a limit. So with me, there's no limit with doing that.
And it was 21 years old, because a lot of people start doing that at 21, but most people don't stop doing that at 21.
Yeah. Well, I kind of started young, but because I kind of digressed a bit. But as a result of like stopping doing that and then developing or uncovering more of a spiritual way of doing things, I started finding that I was reading a lot more books. It's almost like the universe was saying, right, you got to catch up with what you've missed out, what you're meant to be doing in your teens. So all of a sudden I found myself in my early 20s reading a lot of spiritual books, self-help books, books on personal development. And then I found myself going to these workshops, going to these events, going to these seminars. And I thought, I actually really like this. But at the time I was still DJing. And then I thought, well, I think I could do what that guy does. But I think I could bring a different angle. And it just led from there. One person asked me, could you do a bit of coaching for me? Or the next person says, could you do a talk on this? And it just developed. And then one day I started to just start writing notes, and it turned into becoming an author.
Can you be a DJ at 21 years old and be drug-free? I mean, you talk about making this change in your life, but I mean, like, can you really be in there at that age and be like, say, no, I'm going to stay sober tonight? Or do you think that's impossible?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I know I've got quite a few friends that don't drink and take drugs that are the top. As a matter of fact, you'll find the big superstar DJs, like superstar DJs, they don't drink or take drugs. They have a tunnel vision, and they're just focused. So I mean, I was touring in Asia, in like Hong Kong, when I was like 22, 23, just sober. I said to the promoters, I don't drink, I don't take drugs, so don't offer me that when I'm there. I'd like, you know, you tell them what you want in advance. I'd say, right, make sure there's a couple of bottles of sparkling water or a
Did you have to have like a big bowl of yellow M&Ms?
Yeah, like, I don't know, sweets or just a bottle of Coca-Cola, that'd do me. And they respected that because I was upfront and honest about it, you know.
Wow. That's interesting. Interesting story. How I describe you as a life coach, and it's such a term these days. I think people hear it, they're like, they don't know what it is, or they're like, who is this guy to coach my life? And you must get this question asked a lot. First of all, what makes a life coach, and then what makes you qualified as a life coach?
That's a good question. A life coach is someone that doesn't really give advice. What it is that I coach people. They might say, right, I've got the particular area, so I want to advance in my career. Well, I've had a lot of personal experience of advancing in my career. I'm a self-made person. Again, I've got no academic work, so the proof is there. Because I've overcome a lot of stuff in my own personal life as well, a lot of demons, and I've mastered a particular area in my life.
So that particular area is?
That particular area could be with addiction, with living healthy. I mean, I basically live like an athlete. So that gives me credibility, and people see that. And once you've helped one person, another person puts it out there, because if you've touched someone's life in a positive way, people don't forget that. It's there for life. You leave an imprint on their soul. But life coaching isn't just for individuals. Most of my life coaching is for companies, whether it's like sales companies. They want their staff to advance, but they don't want it just to be a pump you up talk. They want some real juice, some good foundation work in there. And then we do public workshops as well, which we have a spiritual foundation. So like we were talking about meditation before, we touch on meditation. Some people find that amusing, going into a sales company and talking about meditation, but I just bring it to like, just breathe deeply, and that you must be relaxed. If you're gonna pitch a sale, you've got to be relaxed.
Is that anti-sales meditation somehow?
You could look at it like that.
Because sales, you need to be aggressive, or you need to be. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't think it. I mean, I personally think I have this expression that I've kind of formulated, which is life tastes better with meditation. And I think any endeavor that you do, like if you're connected to yourself, to your higher self, you're gonna do it better, right? I mean, would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Meditation promotes happiness, stillness. I can communicate with other people more. It amplifies my intuition, my intuitive thoughts, feelings. I feel connected and at one with the universe when I meditate. And people find it easier to approach me if I'm calm. If I'm very anxious, then it's the opposite, because we pick up on that. We walk into a room, and sometimes you can feel, there's a good vibe in here. Walk into the next room and it's like, I don't want to be around that. So it's, feeling's a very powerful thing.
How did you first get into meditation? Because it's not exactly something that probably when you're 21 years old is like an option that's right in front of you. How did you find it?
It was suggested for me to do, because I live by spiritual principles.
And have you always lived by spiritual principles, or did this all kind of happen in your early 20s?
My early 20s. Before that, I think I've always had a positive moral compass, but like I said, when you're drinking and drugging, partying all the time, it's a little bit chaotic. It was for me anyway. But it kind of made sense. I'm going to live by spiritual principles. It makes sense to meditate. And a few people just gently suggested it. And then I experimented. I was doing it for a few weeks, and then I wouldn't do it for 6 months. And I'll go back, do it maybe for a few months, and I wouldn't do it maybe for 9 months. But every time I kept going back to meditation, it expanded and grew. And that's what I found with meditation. I can do set times, but if I'm honest, I don't do set times. It's when I feel to meditate, I meditate. I used to say, all right, when I wake up at 6 a.m., I'm going to sit down and meditate for an hour. I could do that, but I just like to go with the flow, the energy flow of the universe, and I go by my intuition. Sometimes it's better for me to meditate at midday than it is early in the morning. So I don't think there's any rules when you should meditate, even though a lot of spiritual teachers would say meditate at dawn.
Wow. I was watching your Twitter feed recently, and you just put out a lot of this positive energy out there, like once every, a few times a day with your tweets. And I'm just wondering where you get a lot of these thoughts. Some of your tweets recently were, you had an article that you wrote out about positive thinking, and I think you talked about Muhammad Ali and the boxers and how you could say being positive all the time is a cocky thing, but for you said reinforcing in your mind is a positive thing. And where do you come up with these ideas?
From what I've learned from others, and then how that's worked in my own experience, because I learn from others and then I apply what I learn, and then I have an experience as a result of that, and then that's what I pass on.
Could you give us an example in your own life of something where you've seen this mechanism in action?
What, the positive self-talk?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Can you explain that just first? 'Cause I don't think everyone. I know I sent that to Nick, that positive thing, but could you explain that one email you sent out about positive talk?
Yeah,
and the
positive
boxer
self-
analogy you made.
Okay, positive self-talk and having a positive, strong self-image. If I have a negative self-image, even though some spiritual teachers will say don't have an image because that's a form of building your ego,
Right.
which is true. But when someone has a negative self-image and they've got negative doubts and negative limiting beliefs, the next step is to go with the equal and opposite, which is a positive self-image. And it's better to have a positive self-image than a negative self-image, because one with a negative self-image will cut themselves short from life. Crime could come from that. Always settling for second best. When someone's got a positive self-image, not feeling that they're better than others, but just knowing in themselves that they can contribute something to life, then that's a wonderful thing. Positive self-talk is about repetition and reprogramming the subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. All of us have a subconscious mind. From when we are literally a day on this planet, we start to pick up other people's thoughts, other people's feelings and beliefs, and it goes straight into the subconscious mind. The conscious mind hasn't developed yet. It takes about 5 to 6 years for the conscious mind to develop, and you have the mental faculties, the senses that develop from that.
Wow, 5 or 6, okay.
So we're all programmed by the time we're 6 and 7 by our guardians, our parents, our teachers, the people that we've spent time with, all of their thoughts, television, the media, radio, all of it. And a lot of that is mostly negative unless one is born into an enlightened family. Most of us aren't. I've got beautiful family that have a positive moral compass, but a lot of the stuff I'm doing today, I've had to learn it from other people. So I've taken other people's programming that I find to be positive and I've adopted it. Now, that's the first step. It does get to a point where maybe you don't need a positive self-image because you're doing meditation. However, I've even heard Eckhart Tolle say, look, when you start doing this stuff, go with working on your self-esteem and self-worth and having a positive image. That's your foundation. Because if you come from a very negative place, you can't just jump into feeling at one with the universe. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. That takes time. It takes a lot of years of meditation and growing and evolving.
So do you think someone should work on their positive self-image before they meditate?
I think you can do it together.
Okay.
I don't think there's any set rules with it. But if someone doesn't have a positive self-image of themselves, they're going to have the opposite of that. Because even though through meditation you could say, all right, well, we're connecting to a place where there is no equal and opposites, but we're governed by the law of physics in this body. So I've got to work in harmony with those laws. I don't want to rebel those laws like I did in my teens, because I'll pay the price.
What do you think about that, Nick?
Yeah, I am very interested. It's something I actually, on my own journey, I'm trying to figure out what the answer is, because I used to be the king of positive thinking. I read somewhere when I was younger that we have approximately 60,000 thoughts a day. So I said to myself, okay, if I'm having 60,000 thoughts a day, I'll do everything I can to make sure that as many of those are positive and conducive to helping me achieve what I'm trying to achieve in my life. But I'm at the point now where I'm heavily influenced by Osho, and he claims that all problems come from the mind. And what he's saying is, instead of trying to impose your will on this experience, you should instead try to just flow with what the Tao brings to you. And that Barefoot Doctor mentioned that as well. So I know from what you've mentioned earlier in this conversation, I can see that you have an understanding of that, and I'm interested to hear your opinion. I'd like to know how you reconcile those two different spiritual practices, I guess.
So you're just saying don't force all this positive energy into your head because you're kind of disturbing the natural Tao.
Well, as Osho says, the mind is like a clock. If it swings to one extreme, it will have to swing back to the other extreme. And his whole philosophy is just supersede that whole mechanism. Instead of worrying or living in the mind, just live in the spirit, which supersedes that. And I mean, that's what I'm personally trying to do now. It's not easy, but I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing you brought up. I can't function as a human being without the human mind.
Mm-hmm.
I can't communicate or have this conversation without the human mind. So my five senses operate due to the human mind. The fact that I can taste that this tea that I'm drinking and things. So I'm dependent as a human being on the human mind. I don't look at the mind as my enemy. Mm-hmm. The mind is a wonderful tool for me to co-create my reality with the universe, to contribute something special to life. And all creative energy, although it flows through the heart, you know, for instance, if I've got an intuitive feeling and it feels right, you know, that's coming from the place of my heart with integrity. Mm-hmm. But then I use my mind to create in this reality. Meditation, I find, like I said earlier, it brings me to be present. It helps me to be calm and alert. Mm-hmm. And it helps me to connect, I feel, with the universe. So I try not to come from that angle, because that's an extreme in a sense to say, don't live in the mind. Mm-hmm. Try not to. I mean, that's a very extreme statement. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful that I've got this mind and this body, and I'm grateful that that I've also got this spirit. Okay. And because it's mind, body, and soul. Like, we got a workshop coming up in September in London called Mind, Body, and Soul. Mm-hmm. As human beings, we're trilingual beings, so I need all three. I don't want to disrespect any one of them. I'm grateful for this body because I can move, I can walk.
What's a typical day in your workshop like? I mean, what's it like when people walk in? Because when I hear something like that, I can't visualize what that's like. But
it's probably a room maybe about 3 or 4 times this size.
Okay, and who comes to these things?
People from all walks of life.
Such as?
We've had doctors, lawyers, students from Oxford, aspiring actors and actresses, city people,
okay,
people that are, you know, that practice meditation.
And what's their goal in mind for coming to one of your seminars?
It depends. I mean, this workshop we're doing now is called Mind, Body, and Soul. So that's to connect with mind, body, and soul. So there's harmony, because that's where real bliss and wonder happens in life, when the mind, body, and soul is in harmony with one another. Mm. But we do like workshops like self-esteem or self-worth. Well, someone that comes to a mind, body, and soul workshop might not necessarily come to a self-esteem and self-worth workshop. Mm-hmm. We do workshops for particularly, say, for like motivation. Some workshops are to do with relationships. It depends on what we tailor for, and that brings its own audience.
So ultimately, you're just trying to help people live better lives.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's about. That's my buzz.
Okay.
That's my buzz. Self-esteem. I mean, yeah. What if someone comes and brings you a friend of theirs and says he has low self-esteem? I mean, that's such a general thing, but I mean, what do you do with that? You know?
Well, first of all, I hope that they don't say it in front of the person.
Okay.
Because then that creates an awkward situation.
Hey, my buddy's a chump. Can you fix him?
Yeah, because I took this course. It was this teaching for English language course like a year ago, and we had a guy in the class that was unsure of himself, and everyone said to him, "They like, you need more confidence. Get more confidence. Get more confidence." And like
that works.
Yeah, it's like telling someone to relax who's tense. It's like that just doesn't work. So I told him, dude, just have a plan so you're confident in your plan, and that might build. But I mean, how do you start with a lack of self-esteem?
With self-esteem, first of all, I want to make sure everyone's comfortable and relaxed. Like, we have certain music playing. And I have a few people at my workshops that come along. They're there specifically to make people feel comfortable, to make them tea or a cold drink, to ask them how they're doing, to find them a seat if they need to know where the restaurants or bars are afterwards during the break. I want everyone to be relaxed. And then from there, I make it clear that I'm not an authority figure, because I'm still a rebellious person today, but I've learned to use that in a positive way. So I make sure that I'm not coming across as a headmaster, and that I'm there to help them and to share these techniques that have worked for me and thousands of other people that I've helped over the years. And then that sets a good tone. That's important, you know, because if someone with low self-esteem, if someone comes at them, like you said, if they're barking at them, it's not good. Do
you challenge them? I mean, do you get in their face, or do you challenge their feelings and say, why are you doing this or that, or what's your style?
I don't really challenge people in that sense. I wouldn't do that in a crowd either. Because again, if someone's got low self-esteem and someone's deliberately trying to challenge them about their feelings in front of a group, that will make things worse.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a discussion during the break if they approach me. But I have a set format, and then I go with the flow. If someone wants to talk to me during the break, then that's fine. There's no worries.
Do you ever think it's just a case? I'm sure Brian's had this thought before, but I'm personally of the belief that in some instances, some people just need to be told, man the fuck up. You know, sort your life out. Stop whining.
I was going to ask you, because you teach people martial arts, and a lot of people say that's a great way of building some self-esteem and some confidence. I mean, so you must see it when guys come to you, and you must see it either work or not work with what you do. So.
Well, I think, with what I do for sure, but I think for a guy like Chris, and I could be totally wrong, but we were speaking to Zaki about it earlier, it's people only change when they want to change. You know, like I've got a buddy, Nick, I want to lose my beer gut. How do I lose my beer gut? So I say to him, stop drinking beer, right? And then he's like, then he doesn't want to make the sacrifice he needs to make. And I think a lot of people are like that. A lot of people just enjoy their self-pity and their misery. And until they're ready to emerge from that, a course won't help them. A helpful friend's not going to help them. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, definitely. No, I didn't want, until I made a decision to change my life, then nothing happened. I heard people, and I kind of knew that they were right, but I had to get to a place of it being bad enough. I had to be, the saying...
Is this rock bottom?
Yeah, rock bottom,
okay.
Or being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So yeah, I fully subscribe to what you say.
Okay.
The advantage of having a workshop is that 99% of the time, I'd say the vast majority of people that come along, they want to get involved. They come to the seminars because they want to get involved. I mean, otherwise it's pointless because they're paying to get in for one. And someone to come to a seminar or a workshop, generally speaking, wants to advance in their life. They want to prosper. They want to grow. They want to develop. They want to manifest, goodness in their life. It's not like if I was to just walk down the street and just pull people up and say, hey, that'd be a different thing. So generally the people that come, they want to do the stuff.
What's the hardest case you've ever dealt with?
There's been a couple. I mean, it's very difficult when someone has a child that's that's banging trouble. That's difficult because I can't feel what they're feeling. I mean, I've had my level of suffering. The question is, how can we turn around their perception of what's going on? So if someone has a child that's very ill, or a child that's died,
you just can't empathize with that.
Empathize, but there's ways that they too can help others that are in that situation, who've lost other kids, have other kids that are ill, and that helps that will help to heal them, and to help to heal those that are suffering that might not know there's help. So it's about not running away from how you're feeling.
Okay.
Embrace it, and know that accept what's happened, and just
I guess
try and
guys like Brian and I mean, especially with the kind of martial arts I'm involved in and the kind of martial arts Brian practices, and also Brian's role in the city, where in fact, Brian, I think you're way more like this than me. Everything in our lives is, if I do something, I want verifiable, measurable, objective results, and it's one of my big problems with psychology, because you always hear about it. Oh, I've been in therapy for 5 years, and it's like, fuck, dude, if you've been in therapy for 5 years, it's not working. Your psychologist is getting rich off you, So my question to you, Chris, is what kind of success rate do you have? Do you have people who come into your workshop and a year later they say, Chris, I'm a millionaire now, and it's all thanks to your workshop? Or, Chris, I had real issues with my mom, but I implemented stuff that I learned in one of your courses, and that's handled. How often does that happen?
That happens quite a lot. I receive a lot of emails every week from people. I get a lot of letters, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails of people saying thank you. The thing is, the tools that we teach at our seminars and workshops, and the tools that are outlined in my books, are universal. So I know that they don't just work for me. I know that they've worked for thousands of other people. I've seen miracles, literally, from people applying certain tools by changing their perception of reality. You know, when people come up and they give thanks, of course I'm grateful for that. Mm-hmm. But what keeps me, not detached, not the right word. I think what keeps me grounded is that they're not my tools. All I've done is I've applied them. I know that they work, and I've put them in a coherent manner so that other people can apply them. So the stuff definitely works, because I've seen too many cases. And it's interesting you said that, because a lot of people talk about the results. There's lots of people in the self-help industry that say, right, it's results, results, results. And I did an interview not too long ago. You know, no one can control the results. Even if you look in the ancient text, the Bhagavad Gita, you know, it talks about you can only control your actions, never the fruit. I can't control the effect. I can only control the cause. You know, cause and effect, action and reaction, mm-hmm. you know, equal and opposite, cosmic law, sowing and reaping, karma, however you define it. They're essentially saying the same thing, just different terminologies. No one can control their results, because if they did, there'd be no problems in life. What I can control is my attitude and my actions, which create the results, but never the results. And the thing is, most people in society are trying to control their results, which is putting the cart before the horse. And that's why the results get worse. That's why they get more frustrated. And that's why a lot of things backfire. Where if one focuses on just doing excellent work, like we're doing an interview now, 3 of us, first time I've met the 2 of you. We're focused, we're here, we're present right now. You know, we're not thinking about, oh, how's it going to look at the end? We're present right now. So chances are there's going to be a good energy. But some people will conduct an interview like this, and rather than actually being present, they're thinking about, oh, how's the editing going to be afterwards? Mm-hmm. And that will actually destroy the magic almost of mm-hmm. something fresh happening.
Is being present a big part of what you teach?
Absolutely. There's a chapter in the Mystery of Belief called Give and Be Present, which is about intelligent giving, knowing when to give, when not to give. But that's about being present with the universe.
How can people be present these days in an era of Facebook and mobile phones and constant distraction?
It's possible. It's just if I'm on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. So let me give all my attention to Facebook. When I'm not on Facebook and say I'm going to the kitchen to get a glass of water, let me give all my attention to getting a
Or what about when you're out with a friend of yours and he's taking a picture of where you're at, and you know he's only taking it because he's thinking about posting it on Facebook later? That's almost what you just described here. He's no longer present in that situation. He's thinking of posting it. A buddy of mine had his girlfriend doing that all the time, and he's like, you're taking a picture to post it later. You're not with me right now. Mm-hmm. Like, what about something like that?
Well, we all plan. And this is a thing which, you know, you brought up. I can never get away from the fact that I've got a mind. I can never get away from the fact that I have to plan. Like, we've had to plan for today. We arranged to meet at 4:00 in Old Street. If we didn't do that, I could have turned up 4 hours later. You could have turned up 6 hours later. So, you know, we all need to plan. Mm-hmm. And that's important as well.
Do you know, Chris, I'm not completely convinced that that's the case. I think people like Eckhart Tolle and...
who is that, by the way?
Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now.
Oh, yeah, okay, of course.
Yeah. Eckhart Tolle, Krishna, Jesus, Buddha. I think that these people actually had superseded mind. I think they lived in presence their whole lives. I mean, I could be wrong. And I mean, I know it's a state that I can never achieve, but it is the ideal to which I strive. What do you say to that? I mean,
well, you said it's an ideal. So you're working towards an ideal, mm-hmm. which is essentially planning something.
That's interesting.
So it's I'm a human being, and I do meditate, and I do apply spiritual principles, and I fully subscribe to spirituality. But you know, that I'm a human being, and I know, like, my nickname's Divinity, but that's just more kind of like a bit of tongue in cheek, and mm-hmm. also for marketing reasons. You know,
I don't find it egotistic, that name.
Some people do.
Really?
Yeah, some
people. I haven't
do.
met you before.
Well, if you called yourself the divine, that would be pushing it. But Divinity's cool.
Yeah. What do you think your biggest shortcoming is as a life coach right now? I mean, the thing is, the good thing about you is you've got so many more years to improve on what you're doing. I mean,
yeah. How old are you, Chris?
I'm 28.
Okay.
28.
So, what is your biggest shortcoming, do you think, in what you do, as far as a life coach or an author? Or what do you what would be the Chris you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? Or is that the way you think?
Of course, I absolutely plan. Leverage. I'm leveraging myself more. I have no doubt whatsoever in my ability to execute what I get paid to do. That's never in question. As arrogant as that might sound to some people. Where I'm at now is I'm leveraging myself, and I'm getting more people on board to help get the message out there through online and through vehicles in the media. So I always want to advance. See, the thing is, again, I live in a universe where energy is either increasing or decreasing, and I'm energy. Energy is either growing or dying, and I'm energy. You know, energy is either moving forward or going backwards, and again, I'm energy. Everything in the universe is energy. So I want to be moving forward all the time. I never want to be standing still, because to stand still is to maintain, and to maintain really is to go backwards. It's like if you're maintaining a house just so that it doesn't crack, you know, eventually the walls are going to crack. You know, I want to keep improving and growing and evolving.
Do you have to go through some major life changes, do you think, to learn and grow? I mean, do you have to go through some more tragedy, do you think, in your life in order to become that better guy, that better life coach, that kind of
I
thing?
hope not. I hope not,
Really?
if I'm honest. Yeah, I mean, who wants tragedy?
Who wants it? But so, yeah, I mean, some of the greatest moments in your life have probably come from tragedy, right?
Some of them, but then again, a lot of most of the best moments I had have not come from tragedy. I mean, this is a good moment for me, and I have lots of good moments, and so most of my moments, or time, however you define it, is not tragedy, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay, that's cool. Now, you've written 2 books. I mean, you know, they say every person has a book in them, but then some people say it should stay that way in them, you know? So, I mean, like, you know, I mean, I've thought of writing in a book, and a lot of people, you know, probably think they have something to give, but you've actually made it happen twice. How do you make that happen, you know? How do you actually get your thoughts down? How do you get them in a book, you know? How does someone go about doing that?
Through just, I don't know, I could be sitting there, it could be 2 a.m, because I'm a night owl. My partner, Mary, she's trying to help me to, I've asked her, can you help me to try and get to sleep earlier? Because I'm a night owl. I remember all the years of DJing from a young kid, just up very late. So it could be 2 a.m, and I get some inspiration just to write. And I could be up till 4 a.m, sometimes it's during the day. So when it comes out, it comes out. I don't actually plan to say, right, on this specific time I'm going to write, because the inspiration might not be there. And just getting the books out there, excuse me, is about, you know, first of all, I have to believe in myself to do it. You know, even the great spiritual teachers that have written like great articles, they had to have believed in themselves in order to put that stuff out.
And executed.
That's
2 different things. A lot of these spiritual guys that you were talking about can be very spiritual, but unless they got it out on paper, you know, it wasn't going to happen, or people weren't going to know about it. So
Exactly.
And so, is there any secret to doing that?
I think just if, for instance, you turn around, Brian, and said to me, I want to write a book, and you've got insight and awareness of exactly what you want to write, then it's just about believing that you can do it. Just believing and persisting, and just believing to the end until it's done. Self-belief is a powerful thing. That's what the mystery of belief's all about. Self-belief, self-worth, and creating a better life. And again, some spiritual teachers will say, beliefs, you know, they limit you, but I don't believe that, because by them saying that, that's a belief in itself. And I can prove that, because I can say to them, well, is that what you believe? And they're not going to say no, so they're going to have to say yes, so it's a belief. So self-belief's really important.
You must deal with a lot of people in the self-help industry, and I'm just curious what you see out there. I mean, as honest as you can be, because that must be a crazy business to be in.
I'm sure whether we like to admit it or not, I'm sure a lot of it is just pure bullshit and just charlatans trying to make a quick buck. And you are clearly not that kind of person. But
no, absolutely not.
I mean, everyone. The thing about self-help, and I mean, I'm writing a book. You know, on it could be called a self-help book. But what I'm always concerned about is the fact that a lot of people could just say, well, you know, what gives you the right to say what you spoke about earlier, what you addressed earlier? It's like, what kind of authority are you to put your ideas out there, you know? I think about that a lot.
What do you think of the industry in general?
There are some great people in the industry. There are some people that are charlatans. I call them leeches. And they want to prey on
people who are confused.
yeah, and I mean, in my workshops, I mean, I've given away thousands of copies of my books to people that I know can't afford even £10 to buy a book. We've given books away to Africa, in America, and some people I know that really could do this stuff, that want to do this stuff. They haven't got the money for the ticket for a workshop. They just walk in, and there's no thing of that, because the foundation is just about helping people. So when you say you want to write a book, I know just being around you and from the conversation we had before, you're a genuine person. So the people that will say to you, "What have you got to say?" Generally have low self-esteem. They don't believe they could do it. What they're saying is they don't believe they've got something to say. And you clearly have got something to say. I mean, like the fact that you're a master at martial arts and that you meditate and you'll have all your life experiences, that could benefit someone without a shadow of a doubt. A lot of people.
And when you mentioned that, like, people are kind of projecting their own insecurities on you when they say, why should you be a life coach or something like that? How do you deal with hate? And how would you give advice to your people who deal with, let's just be honest, deal with haters? I mean,
how do you mean hate?
People that I guess that's just a slang term.
Yeah, so some
hater.
guy says to you,
Chris isn't the real deal. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's only 28. Blah blah blah.
this stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, he doesn't work. How do you deal with that? And then how do you recommend your clients to deal with that?
Well, I find that very amusing.
Because you must get some of that.
That amuses me. I mean, it makes me laugh. If what I'm doing jars a few people, that makes me laugh. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I've got really thick skin. I learnt from DJing in nightclubs. I mean, the self-help industry is very competitive, but trying to break the London circuit as a house DJ, when I started off in the 90s, if you get a good gig, then all the other DJs that weren't, not all of them, but a lot of them would be bitching and slagging you off and saying, "Oh, this person's rubbish," and that stuff. I'd find it amusing. I mean, if they're saying, the thing is, I know the work I do is real, right? It's real, and it works for lots of people, and it's going to continue to work for lots of people. Now, if some people want to say, negative stuff, which they know isn't true, I'm still relevant in their mind. They're still talking about me. They're still thinking about me. If one person wants to tell 50 people in the room, "Oh, Christopher Dines, his stuff or his books are rubbish or they're shit or whatever," there's 50 people that know my brand. So I look at a positive with everything.
Do you think a certain amount of that is a sign of success when you get some hating?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's
a question I'm constantly asking Nick and asking myself.
I don't know. Possibly,
Yeah, I think if everyone likes you, you're not pushing hard enough, right? Like, you're not pushing the envelope.
I agree with that. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And I can't be friends with everyone. Not everyone's going to like me, and I don't seek to be liked. You're not going to like
everyone either.
And I'm not going to like everyone, and I'm not seeking to be liked by everyone, because that's called people pleasing, and that creates a lot of disaster for a lot of people desperately wanting to be liked, to be accepted.
That comes from like an inadequacy of their own. Like wanting to be liked.
Is that something you talk about, people pleasing? In some of your
sometimes
workshops?
Sometimes.
I'd love to go to one of your workshops, because you're describing them, but I'm having a hard time getting my concrete mind around them. But like, if it was like 2 or 3 things that you talk about in your workshops, like avoid people pleasing and let's address that. Like, if for people listening, how would they get more of a concrete idea of what it's like to be in a Christopher Dines workshop? Because without being,
are you all dressed in white robes?
Yeah, or being like specific.
White robes. I rock jeans.
Okay.
Do you get people chanting? Jumpers. You get them standing up? I mean, like, what are like some of the 2 or 3 top things that you like address?
To create first of all, they need to know. They ought not need to know. No one needs to do anything. If they know what they want, that helps. I often say to people in advance, when you come to the workshop, just try and figure out what you want from this workshop.
Like a goal.
Exactly. A goal or a dream or something. That makes it easier. And then, but again, it depends on the workshop. It depends if you're talking about a goal achieving workshop. Is very different from a self-esteem workshop. Because with a self-esteem workshop, I have to be a lot more, I don't have to be. I choose to be a bit more gentle in my approach. Because you're dealing, someone's coming to a self-esteem workshop, that if someone's down, don't kick them. That's what I believe.
Wow.
Okay. Unless they really pissed you off.
Then kick them 3 times. What I'm just curious, what do you miss about the old days of DJing in Shoreditch? Because we were walking over here and he's like, yeah, I used to DJ around here. What do you miss about that?
Probably the thrills of I say I missed it. I went in 2009. I was getting these kind of like nostalgia and these fantasies about what it was like. So I went and DJ'd in Camden at the Loft, and I was doing a few other nights down there. And I found I'd lost my love for it. But if you're talking about what it was like 10 years ago, if you're playing to a couple of thousand people, it's great. I mean, I used to...
And you're 18 or whatever, or younger.
18, 19. When I was 18, I was DJing at Garage City, which was a big Kiss FM night. That used to be at Barumba. I did like City Loud at Terminals. Terminals is closed now. I did the Ministry many times, and it was just a great buzz. And then you got the pirate radio stations, and I believe they're still going. And
you lost the love for that, though, when you went back?
I went back in 2009 for a couple of months, and it wasn't there.
Huh, that's interesting.
I
guess you shouldn't force it if it's not there, right?
Exactly, and I learned.
Have you heard about... there's a movement which has now been made into a documentary. There's a documentary DVD has been made about it called Electronic Awakening.
Okay.
You heard about this?
No, I haven't.
No, apparently, you know how we all started, humanity started in tribal cultures, small tribes of 50 to 150 people. And they used to commune with nature through drumming or music and dance, right? And the music was usually characterized by a loud drumming beat.
Okay.
And so apparently the premise behind Electronic Awakening is that the rise of rave culture and electronic music is a way back to that for all of us, right? This is how we're reconnecting with each other and the earth. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
There's some truth in that, for sure. I started DJing in 1994. If I was born, I just had a conversation with my friend's partner about this, my friend's wife and some of their friends. If I was born 5 years, say I was born in the late 70s, I would have caught that acid house kind of rave culture. Mm-hmm. And there's no question about it now. Before that, in London, people were fighting. I mean, it was just rough. It was rough and tough. And you had football clubs all fighting with each other. Mm-hmm. Then the rave scene came along and everyone was like hugging, clapping and dancing in the fields. Then the club scene in London in the early mid-90s were just magic.
Cool. We're actually going to an event at the end of the year. One of our guests is hosting called The Big Ohm. Okay. I don't know if you're aware about it.
I'm not.
So Barefoot Doctor, who will introduce you to, I'm sure you guys will get on like a house on fire. He's hosting this event. Where is it exactly?
It's going to be at Wembley Arena, which I think is Wembley Arena, which is next to Wembley Stadium. It's going to be 12,000 people, and at one point, everyone's going to be chanting together at the same place. And it's going to be electronic music and then some Tai Chi performers. And he gets over there and does these like voiceovers of like this. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
actually.
It's going to be
kind
fantastic.
Of positive energy.
Yeah, it's got like your name written all over it, Chris. You'd love that.
When is it?
12th of the 12th,
yeah,
2012.
2012. We're going to be there.
I might have to come to that.
Now check it out. You would like his vibe a lot. You know, I was wondering, Chris, what do you do for fun? You know, I was watching some of your tweets. I know you're a Mayweather fan, boxing fan. What do you do for fun? Do you box or? What?
I don't box. I like watching boxing.
Why is that?
I like the sweet science of boxing, and I just like the energy of it. I like the energy. I think a lot of it's against the conditioning. My granddad, Frank Dines, he died a few years ago. He was very into boxing when he was young. He actually used to fight when he was younger. So I think when he was watching like the Ali fights and the Sugar Ray Leonards. In the late 80s, and I was around there. I was probably about 4 or 5. It goes in. Yeah. I think unconsciously it's a way for me to kind of feel maybe connected to my granddad in some way.
Interesting.
But I just like it. I mean, I like martial arts as well, and I'm getting more into that.
Boxing is a martial art, no matter what anyone says. Oh, yeah. In fact, boxing is probably one of the best martial arts. It's incredible. You know, whenever you spoke about the sweet science, if you watch a high-level boxer, just shadow boxing, that is an individual who has complete mastery of his body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely agree, especially if you try boxing and then you try sparring against a boxer, you realize real fast that, your shadow work is Is
I
that
used to
my
think
Have you
was
ever
just-
done sparring before?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Ryan's kicked the shit out of me loads of times, man.
But you know, the stand-up stuff, I have so much appreciation. I mean, jiu-jitsu is a lot of ground game, and that's a whole nother art. But boxing, a lot of respect for it. And I think I started boxing at a late age, like 30, and I think that's too late. I think you need to be doing it since you're 10 years old, like those Cuban kids do. You know?
But even the training of boxing, I mean,
So much
I
fun,
do a
right?
lot of the training with that. I do personally, and that is that just keeps you fit.
It really, I can't imagine. I mean, I go 4 rounds in a ring, and that's one thing. I can't imagine 12 rounds. I just can't comprehend
Christ.
that.
That's
Those
lethal.
dudes. Can you imagine 12 rounds bare knuckle?
No, I can't.
Right, yeah.
Because boxing used to be bare knuckle
Yeah.
thing until the 18th century.
Yeah. It's
God,
crazy,
very rules.
right?
And you didn't say what do you do for fun? Like, I can just see it's like on my breaks I like to go and heal more people. No, what do you do?
No,
to kick back?
on my breaks, I kick back. I like watching a film. I don't go out as much as I used to. I do. If I go out, I mean I go out. I go all out. Okay. Not drinking and drugging, but I mean I go out. I like going to restaurants. Walking. I like walking in nature, and spending time with family and friends. It's really important to me. You know, family's important. Friends. You know, listening to music as well. I still love that.
You still like music, yeah?
Yeah, I still love
Dude, I
music.
had a weird question that just kind of came to me, and I don't know if this applies more to you, but if you had to write your own obituary and make it say 30 words, make it really short and specific, you know, and hopefully it's not going to happen anytime soon. But what would it be, you know, and not general of like he was a great guy, but what would you write, or what would you want it to be?
I've never thought of that, so
This is the time.
I don't know, because I can't see how I see myself isn't how other people see me. So maybe how I see myself isn't really relevant to how other people would see me, and vice versa. So if one day someone decided to write 30 words on what I've contributed to life, if that's what they feel to do, that's great. But that's the furthest thing from my mind right now.
Ryan, what would yours say?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you as well.
got
Here
the
lies
first.
Brian Rose, bad motherfucker. No,
Extremely good looking
extremely
individual.
good-looking corpse in our days. Oh, it's tricky because you think, well, what am I going to be, 60, or maybe it'll be tomorrow, or 80? It's hard. I mean, is it going to? It's hard to write your own obituary, isn't it? Here lies Brian Rose, who, you know, helped the world, introduce them to the beautiful art of podcasting. You know, it is a tricky one because it involves part of your ego. Because, like you said, we all plan. So to say that you're not thinking about that is probably not true, because you do plan about being a better person and doing the things.
Yeah, but I've never thought of what other people are going to write about me in years' time.
Well,
I've never thought of
the
that.
thing that comes to mind that came to my mind when you asked Chris that question is I once read a little piece which said, live your life so that when you die, even the undertaker is sad. And I thought that was kind of cool, you know? Fuck it, dude. When you're dead, you're dead. You might as well just make this the best life possible, right?
So what do you think yours would be?
Mine, what I would like it to say is, he lived the most alive life he could have. Yeah. I mean, it's a ridiculous sounding statement, but I want I want to really, we're here, we're alive, let's fucking, you know, let's experience it, let's just grab it by the balls and do it, right?
Cool, man. That's a good
Yeah.
answer. It's a tough question because you have to wrestle with a lot of things in your mind when you answer that thing.
Yeah.
You know, guys, we only have a few minutes left. I was wondering, Christopher.
Seriously, that's nowhere near it now, come on.
I was wondering if you have any questions for us or anything you wanted to talk about that we might not have covered.
Sure. I mean, what direction do you see this show going? I mean, I've had a great time today.
Cool, man. Thanks. And you said on the way over here you'd seen about 3 of our previous episodes.
I have, yes.
Which I have to say I think are 3 of our best ever. You know, I don't know if we're catching our stride.
Well, they were
or-
until this one, right?
Yeah, well, that's true.
I bet you say that to all the guests.
You know, this is episode 31, and I remember after Nick and I did the first one, I sat down and we were like, we got to make this consistent, and you know, we have, which is crazy.
Seems like a lifetime ago.
I know, and we've done one every week, pretty much nonstop, and we've had just completely interesting people on every week, and I think we're growing as people, and we're having fun, and we're meeting like some of the coolest people in London, to be quite honest.
Some of the coolest people in the world, man.
Yeah, and I'd say that, and it's like, and people I would have never met before, ever, you know, or I just wouldn't have had such a cool conversation with them as well. You know,
Do you
meet
love London? Do you love London?
Oh yeah, I'm a Londoner, man, regardless of my accent.
And you, do you love
Yeah.
London?
I mean, don't get me wrong, Chris, I do struggle with it sometimes. You know, it's a grimy, like overpopulated city, but at the end of the day, we have our fingers on the pulse of the universe, right? Living here.
Yeah, we do. We do.
How do you feel about London? What's your relationship like with it?
I like it. It's edgy. I mean, some parts in London, as you said, I don't know. What I find in London is that every town's got a different vibe. Like, if we were to kick it in Shoreditch tonight and then decide, let's go down to, say, Chelsea at about 11 o'clock. Totally different energy, and I love that.
Oh, yeah. We had a guest on here, and he said that. I mean, there's probably 100 different Londons where you can go everywhere. I mean, you could go to Stratford, you go to Bethnal Green, you go to Shoreditch, you can go to West End, further west, north, south.
What I was thinking the other day, I was watching that new Sherlock Holmes film.
Okay.
And it's
Game
like
of Shadows or something.
Yeah, that was that Elizabethan London? What was that? It was in
It's late 1800s.
Okay, so what was that era
Industrial
called?
Revolution, Victorian.
Victorian, sorry, yeah. So I was watching that and I was like, wow,
That was grimy.
that was grimy. And then I realized, fuck, I live in that city.
Yeah.
This is the same city, and in 100 years' time, they'll be looking back at like.
Used to be more horses than people in this city.
Seriously.
Everything was horse drawn. Everything,
That's incredible.
Black cabs were horse drawn. Everything was horses everywhere.
Wow.
You could see that in Sherlock Holmes. It was quite a time back then. But I mean, we called the show London Real. I don't know. I guess because Nick and I are here in London. I mean, I'm American. Nick is South African, but. For us, this is a show about London, man, and we love it. I tell black cabbies sometimes, they'll hear my accent, they're like, where are you from? And I'll be like, I'm a Londoner, mate.
Yeah, what I always tell people is...
It drives them crazy.
I always tell them, I'm from Cape Town, but I was born in London.
And so, is there any area in London that you would like to see better? That's a good question.
To learn more about, you mean?
Just generally to improve London.
To improve it.
Yeah,
to see it improve itself.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically like saying, do you think any parts of London are shitty?
Well, I think the East End, and I think we're seeing a huge change with the building of the Olympic Stadium in Stratford. Have you been down there and seen it?
I haven't, dude.
It's stunningly beautiful, and 5 years ago it was a waste dump. The guy said it was old refrigerators, and they had to clean the soil because there was oil and basically toxic waste there. And they rebuilt the whole thing and built this beautiful stadium. So
I'd like to check that out.
I love to see the changes that are happening, and it needs to continue, and I think it will. But I mean, if you think it's Soho back in the day, in the 1800s, was like one of the nastiest places on earth, one of those densely populated, cholera-infested waters. When Karl Marx lived there, you forget how the urban centers change.
Soho's got a good edge now.
It does.
The bars and stuff.
It used to be seedy, didn't it?
It did. There's some parts that are still seedy, but I avoid those places.
Christopher, how do people get in touch with you, and how do the people buy your book? What can you tell them, or follow you on Twitter? Can you just give us your info?
Absolutely. If someone feels to follow me, my Twitter's at Divinity Dines, or you can go to ChristopherDines.com, or just type in Christopher Dines on Google, or you can send me an email. And I'm on social media.
Okay,
cool.
And we have your book, The Mystery of Belief, in front of us, but you have a second book, which is called?
I have the book before that was called A Ticket to Prosperity.
Okay.
And then I've got another book coming out either at the end of this year or early next year, which is about manifesting your bliss and happiness and bringing joy out into the world.
Now we're going to get this guy in touch with Sonia Deville as well.
Yeah, I'm sure she's going to want to grab him for a guest as well. It's interesting you said about manifesting your bliss and getting a lot of other. I think a lot of your Twitters seem to be kind of saying a lot these days. The tweets,
yeah,
and pushing all that positive energy out because it comes right back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just for the joy of doing it, it's a beautiful thing. On a serious note, I mean, this might sound a bit mushy to some people, and that's fine. But for real, like when you see someone's face and their eyes light up. Because maybe you've just given them you haven't told them what to do, you haven't advised them, because I don't give advice, but you've given them some genuine encouragement without thinking of any financial compensation whatsoever. Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, who doesn't like earning money? I love earning money. I find I get a lot of joy, though, when I do stuff to give back for, if it's charitable work or just meeting someone on the street and talking and just giving some encouragement. That's priceless. There's no feeling better than that when it comes to actually being a service.
Yeah, it's a reflection of the divine, right? I mean, we've all been given this amazing gift of life and this experience by the God energy, and when you do the same, when you give someone something, you're being more divine and more godly. So I completely understand that, and I completely agree with you.
And it's pure and it's selfless and it's just bam.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good for everyone.
Dude, that's all good. Christopher, thanks for finding us. Through the powers of the almighty internet, we have all met today. So thanks for finding us, and thanks for coming on the show. It was really, really good getting inside your head briefly.
Thank you so much.
Cool, man.
It's about the journey.
It is, man. Take care, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.